So in this video, I'm going to be going through some what I call tips and tricks on quick and easy use of the Griffin Toolkit, helping you get comfortable and familiar with using this on a daily basis, teaching you some of the shortcuts that we as hardcore Griffin users make use of every day. So the first thing to know about Griffin is the different locations of logs. The logs are critical for debugging, diagnosing issues, and there are a couple different places to look. So the first thing you'll notice is that I have this black box up here. Now let me show you something. If I open Griffin the regular way, I'm just going to get the splash screen here. If I open this Griffin_C, this means console mode, and I'm going to get this console here. Basically, any errors that are generated in the GUI are going to get, the error information is going to get spit out to this console, and that's going to be really helpful in figuring out any strange UI behavior that you may be experiencing. Now, the other place to look for logs is in the Griffin/logs folder. Everything that's running from applications to data links to genetic trainers and also models as you're training them through the graphical user interface, there's going to be log files generated here. So every application and data link and genetic trainer is going to get its own unique log anytime it's running, and the log information is going to get output to that file. Models, if you're doing the if you're using models here, let's open up something I already have here. So if we have models here and I start training the model, okay, there's my training. I have this new file called model_editor.log. So anytime you're training models through the GUI, you're going to get the output information in model_editor.log. So here it is, some information about my training run that I can use to learn more about what my models are doing. So log information is very important. And with that, I'm going to get into some programs here. Let's open up my PID demo and see what we got. So something that's really important to know about Griffin is that we have documentation, and the documentation is readily available if you basically open up the customizer or the editor for a component. There's going to be this little help button in pretty much all these components. You click on this, it's going to open up your browser, and we're going to be able to look at some documentation. If you go to the table of contents, you'll see there's a lot of different topics here in our documentation. There's some general information about like our proprietary DCC calculation. We have information about neural networks, the genetic trainer, etc., etc. And then pretty much every individual component that we have available in this user interface here has its own help file associated with it. So these help files are going to be really crucial in learning how to work with the functionality of the different components. The optimizer is a good one. The optimizer has a lot of functionality built in, so the help file for this is going to be really informative, help you figure out how to make the best use of that. So now that we're looking at the GUI, there's a couple things I want to talk about. Let me get this little red component out of there. That's an eyesore. So with the GUI, basically we've designed Griffin to work with the familiar Windows shortcuts. So you can do multi-select with dragging. You can do copy-paste with Control-C, Control-V. If I press Control-V, it's going to say, click on the design area to place the content. Okay, so I'm going to click here, and it's going to ask me, do I want to insert space? Well, I'm pasting at the bottom, so no, I don't need to do that. But if I were to paste again at the top here, I would definitely want to insert space. Now I can use Control-Z to undo. Undo, redo, undo, redo. If I want to get rid of that space, I can click undo again, and it's going to bring that back up for me. And I can undo again and delete that. Now, as with any program, if you start getting real complex with the undos and the redos and interleaving new edits in between, there's only so far you're going to be able to undo. But we do have the basic functionality. For something like this, if I press the delete button, it's going to delete these things for me. I can delete some others here, and then these are going to show up as misconfigured because now what they're looking for, the thing they're pointing at, doesn't exist anymore. I can undo that, and those are going to show back up as configured. Some more keyboard shortcuts are the arrow keys. So you can use the arrow keys either to scroll if you don't have anything selected, or if you have things selected, you can move them with the arrow keys. If you hold down Shift, they'll move faster. Okay? Just like in Photoshop, if you've ever used that. So this one, if I wanted to get this aligned, I'm just going to use the arrow keys. It can really be a pain trying to get things lined up nicely. if you're just using the mouse, trying to get it lined up perfectly, yeah, that's pretty annoying. So we just use the arrow keys. Shift to move 5 pixels at a time, and regular to move 1 pixel at a time. If you hold it down, it'll slowly start speeding up, and that's kind of a cool feature as well. So yeah, it's really easy to keep things lined up nicely with the arrow keys. The mouse wheel can also be used to scroll, and that's really helpful. And it's pretty intuitive there, but just in case you missed it. Multi-selection basically works if you want to select one thing and then you want to select another. Just hold down Control. You can add things to the selection. Whoops, I accidentally deleted the link there. You can add things with multi-select. And then you can take things away by clicking on them again with the Control button pressed. Okay, so the next thing I'm going to show you has to do with choosing variables. Now, in Griffin, everything is pointing to different variables, and variables have names like constants, .fuel fluctuation, and calc b2 fluc .result. So if you can type these in, and that's often what I do, but also if you need to remember it or search the list, you're going to be pressing a button like this, external variable, or you're going to be pressing one of these buttons with the dots on it. If I'm looking at, let's see, for example, my PID controller, all these fields here have this option for me to pull up this variable chooser. So this is where I can look at all of the accessible variables in my application. And in a big application, this list can get really big. So basically what you can do is, as soon as this opens up, you can just start typing. I just typed runtime there, and it immediately went to runtime. If you want to see what you're typing in real time, you can type it in here, and you can go back and search specifically for something that way. And it's going to pull it up as you type. There's no need to press enter or wait. It's just going to pull it up instantly. So that's going to be really helpful in quickly accessing the variable that you're looking for. These calculators here, depending on how fancy you're trying to get with them, or if you're typing variable names in manually, it can be pretty easy to get a syntax error here. One of the new features in Griffin is this check equation option, where we press this and it's going to tell me, okay, equation is correct. Or if I screw up my variable name here and I try to check it again, it's going to say invalid variable, runtime vals, etc., etc. I can see this error message here. So going on with the copy-paste idea, copy-paste is not just in this application builder here. Copy-paste works pretty much flawlessly throughout all of the different components. So anytime you see something like a table in Griffin, for example, if I were to insert a matrix here, and I were to say, give me 10 rows and give me 3 columns. Okay, so here's my matrix. Now they're auto-populated with zeros right now. But let's say I want some numbers in here. I'm just going to make some numbers real quick. Let's say I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Now I can copy this. I could copy this from Excel just as easily. I can copy this and I can go in here and paste it, and boom, there's my numbers right there in that row. Now let's say I wanted to copy just some like that, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. What I did there is I clicked the first one, I held down Shift, and I clicked the end of my range. So this is similar to how you can select things in Excel. Click the first cell, click the last cell while holding Shift, and right now this is going to select 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 for me. So I can copy that, and I can go here and click this cell and paste it, and there it is, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And this works going in and out, so I can copy this here, and then I can go back to my text editor, paste this, and now I have some things copied in here, and these are tabs in here. So if I were to paste this into Excel, pull up Excel to show you. If I were to paste this into Excel, it would work just as nicely. Now this can be also really helpful when you are naming things. So for example, I have 1 through 10 numbers. And this is going to kind of bleed into one of my other major tips, which is to use a high quality text editor when you're working with Griffin. I use Sublime Text. You can download it for free. They'll send you a little notification asking you to purchase it every once in a while, but you can use it for free. I purchased a license, of course, because I get major use out of this nice little text editor here. And one of the great things about this text editor is that you can do multi-line edits very easily. If I do Control A to select all, and then Control Shift L, this is going to break my editors into every single line that I have highlighted. And now I can take off this .0, for example. I don't need that, okay? Now I can add something like row underscore to the beginning, like if this is what I want my names called. Or, for example, I could say this could be burner numbers, okay? So now I have really quickly made all of my burner names for this, and I can paste them right in. And anytime you have a table like this in Griffin, you can basically use copy-paste operations. In data links, you'll have tables like this. In several of the different components, you'll have tables. And in every one of those locations, you can use these type of copy-paste shortcuts to make your life easier. If you're trying to do this kind of edit, for example, you have 100 rows and you're trying to name them all according to some formula, and you don't have access to a nice text editor like this, you can use Excel. In Excel, there's something called the Concatenate function, and I'll show you how that works real quick. So let's say we have something called burner, and we're going to copy this down 10 rows, and we're going to create some numbers. And here I can say equals concat A1 B1. Okay, sorry, the formula name was concatenate. So concatenate A1 B1, and I can drop those down and boom, it highlighted all of these. If I want to, for example, put an underscore in there, I can put the underscore as a separate field. Okay, so you see how that works, and I can extend that down, and now I've got underscores. So you can do this. You can do the same thing in Excel, and it might even be easier if you need to quickly generate lists of numbers according to certain intervals. So I'd like to talk a little bit about once you actually get the application running, what's going to start happening. Now I already showed you that these log files get generated. So I'm going to start my PID demo application. So we got a new log here. Not too much going on in the log file yet. Just tell me we started our application. We started our main thread in the application. Sounds good. With this application running, there's a couple more things we can do. We can also get a quick view of the logs being generated by pressing this button. Now it's not going to show us old log messages. It's only going to show us log messages that are being created from the time we press this button. But that's a quick way to access the logging data generated by the application. This button here is Display Application Variables. This is really cool. So this is going to give me a list of every single variable available in the application. And I can quickly find things here by, again, typing C, calc, and there's all my C variables. I can go here to PID. Okay, so here's my PID row, and it's going to, again, instantly pull up the row that most closely matches what I'm typing here. So then, of course, we have our Applications, Tables, and Charts button. If I click on this, it's going to pull up my data displays that I've created within the application, and these can be, this is for example historical plots, we have XY plots over here, and some control screens, data screens. Some of these data screens you can make values available for the user to manipulate in real time. Those values will show up as green columns, but none of these are set up that way currently. And you can have these tables color coded as well. So for example, once this application gets to a certain point, it's going to show me an alarm state on one of these signals. And there's my alarm state. And that's basically telling me that this burner here, burner 2, has deviated substantially from the expected value. And that's just the way I have my demo set up. Now these plots here, if you click and drag, you can highlight an area to zoom in on. And that can be really handy. And when you want to zoom back out, you simply click and drag up and to the left, and that's going to bring it back out to the full view. I believe you can also double click. Nope, just got to drag. On these plots in the program, you can set these up to display how much information you want. For example, here we have 540 samples. You can also determine a number of minutes that you want the data to be stored for on the plot. If for some reason you want to clear that data out, you can go View, Reset Chart Data. And this is going to basically delete everything off the charts and start them from scratch. So those are my Griffin tips and tricks for today, and if I think of any more, I'll make another video. Thanks for watching.